Imagine that you are in a dangerous situation. A car comes out of nowhere. As you try to cross the street, you move away quickly. You might even bang on the car and tell the person that they shouldn't have done that. But rarely would you fall asleep. Between the 1980s and the 1990s, a strange, mysterious illness overtook the refugee children in Sweden who had left their countries, which were war-torn and full of danger. If you're fascinated by the bizarre and the unexplainable, you're in the right place. We explore stories, experiences, events, mysteries, and more through an Islamic lens. You're listening to Totally Out There, and I'm your host, Aisha Alam, author of Muslim speculative fiction novel A Strange New Land.
Get lost in the mystery. Find yourself in the truth.
This illness, known as resignation syndrome, caused the children to fall asleep. Some of the children had fallen asleep for more than a few months, some even over a year. These children were between the ages of 8 and 15 years old. And the way that the symptoms of this mysterious disease began to show were very gradual. And there was a trigger. The trigger was a lack of safety. So yes, they had the lack of safety in their country, and some of the things that these children had witnessed, and all of these children who had this experience of resignation syndrome had witnessed horrific things in their countries. They had witnessed killings, they had witnessed the abuse of their parents, they had witnessed bombings, they had witnessed so many things, and it was these children who fell into this mysterious sickness. Now, once they had reached a place of safety, Sweden, their bodies did something extremely unusual. It began with the trigger of the possible lack of safety, that they would not attain visaship of that country, of Sweden. So once this trigger of the possibility that they would go back to their home country came, then they began to show certain symptoms, and it began with a slow withdrawal from society, from the people around them. They wouldn't laugh as much. They wouldn't smile as much. They stopped talking. Then they stopped eating. Then they stopped drinking, and then they stopped using the bathroom, and then they stopped using their limbs until they fell asleep and in a coma-like state, as we said, for a few weeks, some of them, and some of them for even up to a year. The way that they got out of this state wasn't through any kind of physical therapy. It was through the feeling of hope. When the visa of their parents had been approved so that they could stay in Sweden. So what is this mysterious illness, and what triggered the children to fall into it in such an extreme way? Now, there are many theories as to what caused resignation syndrome. The most popular theory is that it was trauma and stress. But then people began to ask, why in Sweden? The most common answer was the environmental impact on the children. So because they were in this specific place, they reacted in a specific way that they felt safe enough to. And in this case, whereas in their countries, they may have had that fight or flight response, whereas in Sweden, they went into a kind of freeze response, which is a physiological extreme shutdown of the systems. Now, there was something else very unusual, what happened with the children when someone approached them. When they would try and open their eyes, the eyes would tense and they wouldn't let the person open their eyes. And when they would try to open their jaw, the jaw would tense and they wouldn't allow the person to open their jaws. And this was extremely confusing. When one of the children woke up after about a year and her visa had been approved, she woke up from hope, right? When she woke up, she was asked why she remained asleep for so long. And she said that it was like a dream-like state, almost like a sense of peace. And she didn't want to come into the real world because she felt like she could be safe there. There are so many, like we said, theories of why this could happen, but the main one is trauma, and it's the impact of the environment around us and the impact of a severely stressful event that overwhelms the system, so the system cannot cope in a way that it can continue as usual. It's locked in, it's a kind of freeze response, and that is what the symptoms of this syndrome manifested as, a kind of freeze response, like the trauma was locked in. Now, the thing, like we said a few times, that got them out of this was hope. Once they found out that they were able to stay in this place and they would be safe, then they came out and they were absolutely normal. Some of them just went back to the way everything else was, and the cure to this was hope. Now, the concept of falling asleep for an elongated period of time, over a year, is not something totally out there when it comes to the teachings of Islam. There's actually been a few accounts in the Quran where people who were in severely stressful situations had gone to sleep for an elongated period of time. And one of those stories is in a chapter of the Quran called the Cave, which Muslims read voluntarily every Friday. And this chapter begins with the story of a group of young men and a dog. And this group of men are being traumatized by the people around them, and they're being persecuted and they are being oppressed. So they go into a cave to find sanctuary and safety. When they are in this cave, sleep takes them. And when they are in this state of sleep, similar to the children who were in this state of resignation syndrome, there are small things that they were doing, like turning from side to side. They looked very much like they were just sleeping. It didn't even look like they were in a state of a coma. And similar to the children, the children's hair was glossy, their eyes were tensing, they didn't want to open it up. They were doing these interesting things which made them look very much like they were sleeping beauties. And the people of the cave did something very similar, as like we said, they were turning from side to side, and anyone who would have gone in and seen them would have literally been in awe of how much and how shocking this whole situation is, of a group of men sleeping in a cave for that long. And in the cave, in the story of the cave, they slept for over 300 years. And when they woke up, they were in a place which was a safe environment, and they were able to go out, they were able to go back to their normal lives, and they were able to live in a way that they were okay and they were not going to be oppressed anymore. What I want us to take away from this is that hope can be a powerful catalyst to get us out of a difficult situation. It can be a powerful catalyst for healing, building a sense of security for children especially, and for the people who have been in a traumatized situation, is the first priority that should be taken care of. Being safe is essential for healing, for recovery. Poet Emily Dickinson once said, "Hope is a thing with feathers that perches on our soul." And as Ibn al-Qayyim said, that Islam is like a bird which is guided by the body of love, with one wing of fear and one wing of hope. Consider supporting the efforts and raising awareness about refugee children and their experiences by purchasing my book, A Strange New Land, which is dedicated to our children. All the information is under this video. Thank you for being here with me today. Peace.